Hey, do you want to build a stronger family, create a better life? Well, that's what Divorce with Heart is all about. It's a show where I guide you along your divorce and co-parenting journey using the heart's wisdom, intuition, and legal expertise. So sit back, take a deep breath, relax. My name is Gina DiPrima. Let's get started. Hey everybody, how are you? It's episode 21 today, September 10th, and I think it's a perfect time of year for this one. And today we're going to be exploring what teachers and coaches want you to know, but maybe haven't told you, can't tell you, won't tell you. But, for a lot of us, it's the beginning of the school year and sports are starting up again, so I thought this is the perfect time to explore this topic. And it's an important topic. A lot of what I'm going to talk about today, I just want to warn you, some of it might sound like common sense. But the reality is, sometimes things that sound like common sense are definitely more difficult to put into practice and implement. And I know that for a fact because even though these things might sound like common sense, you'd be surprised at how much litigation starts around these very issues. So it's a super important show today. I hope you can stay with me to the end. And we are live, so if you have any questions, thoughts, concerns, whatever it might be, maybe you just want to call and say hi to me. That'd be cool. Give me a call at 760-456-7277. And before we just jump right into, the details of what I want to talk about on today's show, I want to say thank you again. Thank you for listening. Thank you, everybody who's joined the Facebook group and for participating. There's been a lot of great comments there lately, a lot of group participation, and a lot of group support. And I just love to see that. Everybody just helping each other and supporting each other. And everybody who might have responded to my survey to help prepare for the show, all you teachers and coaches out there, thank you so much for doing that. I really appreciate your time and your effort in doing that. And good news. It's exciting. It's surprising. I don't know. But last month, August, is typically a slower month for radios and podcasts because everybody's busy trying to squeeze out the last bit of summer. But we hit 3,000 downloads. That was like the biggest month yet. And I know that that's because of your loyal listeners, the loyal listeners out there like you. Well, I can't even talk today. So I just want to say thank you so much. And the ratings I received this much in iTunes, I got the notification yesterday, and I got to tell you, they just brought tears to my eyes. It's just so thoughtful and so good to know that you're really enjoying what you're hearing and that this is really helping you. And just to send you or show you my appreciation for you and going about and leaving that review, which I know isn't always easy, especially on iTunes. I've had some trouble myself trying to navigate how I do it. But anyways, I just wanted to say thank you. And in exchange, I'm sending you some love and I'm sending you some energy. And I did that today before I came on. I always do a little bit of energy work before I come on a show. And today I had all of you in mind, the people that have left me ratings on iTunes. And I went in and I asked that any energy that might be in you, any residue, any vibration that's, not really vibrating at the frequency of love, or that might be blocking you or interfering with your right to receive some love and transmit love. And that can be in any form of kindness, compassion, patience, tolerance. That's what I mean when I'm talking about love. Well, I went in and I really worked and I asked for that to be cleared and removed from you entirely. And I asked for your connection to your soul wisdom, to your higher self, that be opened up and that you receive some of that wisdom when the timing's right for you. Kind of on the side note, I was hoping for in the next 24 hours, but I don't know. The universe works in mysterious ways. And I asked that all of that energy that was in you that's not working and interfering, that just be shifted and cleared and cleansed from you so that you can receive all that you deserve, and so that you can show up in the world in your full, whole self. And what came up too, I just want to say, what came up as I was doing this, I was getting some really, really vivid images of some throat trauma. And, this could be symbolic of maybe some love that just crushed your throat and your vocal cords so much that you can't speak anymore. But I also feel like there's a real physical sense to that. Somebody with a real bad sore throat, or maybe some thyroid issues, something going on with that throat was coming through real strong. So I don't know who it is. If this resonates with you, particularly somebody who left me a review, let me know who you are, and just know that we sent you a little bit of extra. Sent you a little bit of extra love and a little bit of extra good vibes to help get you through. And I'm here for you, as all of you are here for each other, and you'll see that in the group. So just wanted to start there. Again, I like to say thank you to all of you, because we wouldn't be here, we wouldn't be changing this divorce paradigm and really helping to spread more peace in this world, starting at home first, right, with the families, if it wasn't for all of you. So keep on listening. Give me a call today if you're listening live. Let's chat. And if you're not already a member of the Facebook group, or you haven't found me yet on Facebook, my page is Gina Marie DiPrima. Go do that. Connect with other people just like you. We're all in this together. All right. So enough of that, right? Let's dive in. This is such an important topic. So I did send out a survey. I got quite a few responses from very many teachers and coaches. So everything that I'm going to bring to you today comes from their responses, which will be anonymous. And it comes from my experience. My experience working as a lawyer and working as an attorney for children. I come in contact with teachers and coaches all the time. So, that's the basis of what I'm about to share with you today. The first thing, and this is really the baseline, the crux of everything that we're going to talk about today, but the first thing you really need to know and just sink your teeth into is that your teachers, and I'm talking about your kids' teachers, okay, your kids' teachers, the people that are involved with your children, coaching them in soccer, baseball, hockey, whatever the case may be, dancing, gymnastics, maybe it's a musical instrument, whatever the case may be, these people who we know and we trust our children with them, and in some cases, our children are with them longer than they're with us on any given day. Well, these people play an extremely important role in your child's life, and therefore in your life. And one of the things you really, really have to understand here, and again, it's going to sound like common sense, but these people are not there for you. They're not there for you. I want that to sink in. Because I know you're thinking, well, of course they're not. I already know that. They're teaching my kid or, coaching my kid. Yeah, I know. But if you already know that, and everybody would react that way, then why do so many of us go the extra length then to try to, involve them in our story? Because that's what I hear all the time, right? Telling them the little details of what's going on, what the other parent did, all of that stuff. Well, I'm going to put it out there. I think we try to tell them the story because we're trying to make them our allies. We're trying to, recruit them onto our team in this battle, right? So, and that's just one of the reasons. But there you go. So the teachers and the coaches, they're not there for you. They are there for your child. That is their number one priority. Their be all, end all. Your teachers are concerned about educating your children so that they can grow up and be productive citizens, right? And they're going to do anything they can to help support your child in the classroom. That coach, that dance instructor, same thing. They're teaching our children in a different kind of way. They're teaching them even more intangibles, right? About being a team player, maybe leadership, about confidence, about all sorts of stuff. But again, their focus is on your child, not on you and what's going on in the family. Now, that being said, like I said, you've really got to anchor into that idea first before you even get any further here and keep being reminded of that. But once you get that being said, it doesn't mean you don't tell them anything. Okay? Again, these people who we trust with our children oftentimes can be with their children longer than we are. So it is important to tell them about any major changes that are happening at home. Why? Well, because it's going to affect your child. Of course it will, and they need to understand that. They need to have some context for what they might be seeing or, observing in your child. We all know the risks of what divorce can bring. And I say can bring because, again, it's not mandatory, but we all know what they are. They can bring more aggression, more depression, lower self-esteem, poor school performance. All of that can happen to kids of divorce. Can happen. They're risks. They're not guarantees. Okay? And one way that you can ensure that your child is going to fall on the right side or the better side of that line and not have such heightened risks is to make sure that you do have kind of like, all eyes on deck, or so to speak, right? Like you do have the teachers in the loop. You do have the coaches in the loop. But again, in the loop does not mean airing out all your dirty laundry. Okay? In the loop is good because, like I started to say, then they can have a context for the way your child is behaving. Okay? I'll give you an example. This has happened more than once through my practice. And kids of different ages will react differently to things that are going on at home. Well, one time I was representing a child. He was a middle schooler. Okay? He was doing great in school. He had a lot of friends, popular little kiddo, involved with extracurricular activities, everything. He never got in trouble, ever. Okay? He was like a model student, right? Well, one day I'm talking with the people at the school, his teacher, his principal, and his vice principal, because this little kiddo went to school and got in a huge fist fight. Beat up another little kid. And this was completely out of character for this kiddo. And of course, he had to be suspended as a result. Well, what they didn't know is, one, they didn't know that his parents were in the midst of a huge custody battle that really, quite frankly, has now, in hindsight, it's gone on almost this kiddo's entire life. That's another story. The people at the school didn't know that. So they didn't know entirely how to react. They were taken back. They were shocked. It wasn't until I called them and I explained to them what was going on that they were able to give some context to this little kiddo's behavior. And of course, he still got in trouble, right? He had to be held accountable, but they had more compassion and more understanding because they knew that things at home weren't so smooth, right? Another time, I had this little girl in elementary school, cute little girl, friendly, everything was fine. And then one day she was just refusing to go to lunch, wasn't socializing with her friends, refusing to go to lunch, real clingy on her teacher, only wanted to stay with her teacher. And the school didn't know what was going on. I mean, you can imagine that, they're human, right? And people's thoughts can sometimes get the best of them. Their imaginations can get the best of them. So their imaginations were going wild. Let's just say that. But they had no idea what was going on until I reached out and talked to them. And it was unfortunate because I was the first person that they heard from that this little kiddo's parents were going through a divorce. So in both of these instances, and there's a lot more, I'm always consistently told time and time again by teachers, by coaches, that they wish they would have known. Okay? So yes, it is very important to keep those teachers and coaches, important people in your children's lives, in the loop, in the know, right? But here's the big but, like I kind of said, you do not need to air out all your dirty laundry. So what you tell them and how you tell them is just as important because, they do not want to know everything, right? Your purpose in communicating any information should always be first based on what they want to hear, which remember, they're in it for your child. They want to help your child succeed. They want to help your child excel. So they want to be supportive to your child. So that should be where you're coming from. Convey information from your child's perspective, all right, to the teacher. And here's a little caveat. When you're looking at it or trying to look at the situation from your child's perspective, from their eyes, from their shoes, be careful not to filter with your opinion. And this is real tricky because a lot of people automatically do this, you know. Let me try to think of an example. Maybe your child saw something that wasn't so good. And I don't mean like the most horrific thing that a child could see, like domestic violence and physical abuse, but they saw something that didn't make them feel good. Maybe it was an argument or something in the house. And, you might be super angry at your spouse that you were arguing with, and that entire argument might make perfect logical sense to you. But to your child, they don't necessarily know all that. They probably shouldn't know all that. All they know is they're picking up on the anger and the hostility. So it's unfair to look at it from their perspective and place blame. You know what I mean? Like to place blame, like all of a sudden they don't like the other parent, because that part of the interpretation is coming from you. That part of the perspective is not necessarily coming from the child. Okay, because I will tell you that in my experience, even in some pretty awful cases, children always love their parents. Even when they haven't been treated the best, they still fall back and love their parents. So when you're talking to these teachers and coaches, it needs to be from the point of view of helping them gain information that will help support your child, information that is from your child's perspective, but not information that is from your child's perspective in a sense that it's filtered with your opinion on there, or contaminated with your opinion. So it's like, what is your child aware of? And that's it. Okay? So here's some guideposts. Stick to the facts. Just the facts. Omit the drama. Because again, if we're looking at it really from your child's perspective, they don't know the full extent of the drama. And what they do know or think they know is likely been told to them, again, from somebody else's opinion and judgment and filtered perspective. So it's not really their own, right? It's like a coached message in a sense. So stick to the facts, omit all the drama. You're not going to talk about fault when you're talking to the teacher, okay, or the coach. You're not going to tell them why you're getting a divorce. It doesn't matter. These details don't matter. They don't need to know who had the affair. They don't need to know who the other woman is or who the other man is. They don't need to know about how so-and-so is so irresponsible, immature, crazy, a drug addict, whatever. You fill in the blank. They don't need to know that stuff. They only need to know really the basics and the facts. Is the parent in the house? Is the parent involved with the child? How often are they seeing the child? Are there agreements worked out? I mean, just the facts, the basics. That's it, really. To the extent that it affects the child. Okay? Now, one, they don't have time to get into everybody's business. They don't want to get into everybody's business because they do not want to be manipulated or, used later on or drawn into the battle, right? But if you think about it from your child's perspective, and I've heard this from many kids, depending on their age, of course, but if you think about it from your child's perspective, how do you think it feels for them to think or even suspect that all their teachers know everything about their business? Of course, the older the child is, especially middle school years, high school years, that's where this is more of an issue. They don't want everybody knowing their business. It's embarrassing. It makes them feel uncomfortable. It makes them feel different. And kids don't like that. They don't want to be different. They want to be just like everybody else, right? So stick to the facts. Just let the teacher, the coach know, look, things are going on at home. We're going through a divorce. We've separated. In a month, we're not going to be living together anymore, okay? Or we're not living together right now, and this is the schedule that we're, kind of operating from. Just stuff like that. Let them know if something else big happens. Sometimes there are changes to the parenting schedule where all of a sudden a parent won't have the ability to spend time with their child anymore for whatever reason. Maybe they do have a drug addiction or an alcohol problem or mental illness, and they have to spend some time in getting better. So that means they're not going to see the child for a while. Well, that's something that is important to bring to the teacher and the coach's attention. Again, not filling in all the details. It doesn't matter. You're not trying to win them over. You're not trying to pull them on your side. They don't need to know why mommy or daddy isn't going to be around for a while. Okay? They just need to know that from the child's point of view and what the child's experience is, they went from seeing mommy or daddy on a regular basis, having them in their life, having hugs and kisses, having them around, talking to them on the phone, whatever the case may be, to all of a sudden, they're not going to for a while. And that might impact their behavior. So, it's basically letting the teacher and the coach know, just look for it. Look, just check in if you see my child a little more withdrawn, if you see them struggling a little too much, if they seem to be more irritable, it could be this, okay? So you don't have to get into all of the details. Again, I know I keep repeating myself, but it's so important. Other big things. Sometimes you have arguments and the police are called, okay? That's something you might want to let them know. And I know you might be embarrassed. And again, you might feel like, well, I don't want to involve them in my business. But to the extent that it impacted your child, it might be something you should say. If your child doesn't even know, doesn't even care, it wasn't an issue, then forget about it, right? Anything else big? Sometimes there's just life. Life just happens, right? Whether you're going through a divorce or not, life happens. Maybe you have the death of a pet, family member, something like that. Somebody gets sick. That's something else that you want to keep other people really clued in about, right? And when you talk to the teacher or the coach, and I'm using talk loosely, I should say communicate. When you're communicating these things, you should do it as early as practical. And here's the kicker, you should do it together if at all possible, okay? It is certainly preferred by most teachers and coaches that you approach them together because, again, they do not want to be stuck in the middle of your family drama, which is all too possible. And the risk of that increases when there are separate meetings, okay? So if you can do it together, that's the preference. And if you can't meet together physically in the same room, that's okay. Do an email. Make sure you're both on the email. And by all means, if you are doing it physically, do not do it in the presence of your child. Never, ever, 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 ever bring these issues to you at open house, school concerts, a soccer game. Okay, don't do it at that time. These are supposed to be happy moments in your child's life. This is a moment and a memory for your child, not for you. So don't do it then. All right? Save it. Schedule some private time with the teacher. Don't do it at a time like that, okay? Or ice cream social. Don't do it then. Just don't do it then because the focus should be on your child and not on your family's problems, okay? So if you can do it, then do it together. And when it comes time to doing it together, of course, basic rules of civility here, really, act like adults, right? Don't argue, don't fight, don't bicker, don't swear at each other, don't get in fist fights. Believe it or not, these are responses that I got on the survey. This happens. So I know you're rolling your eyes. Oh, Gina, this is common sense. I know it's common sense. But again, common sense isn't always easy to do, right? I mean, when your heart is broken, when you're angry, when you're frustrated, when you're going through a divorce, just the thought of seeing your spouse can trigger so much in you that you start acting out of character. You say things, you do things that you look back on and you wish you didn't. I know it. It happens. It happens. So yeah, I know it sounds easy, but these are real horror stories that have happened. Okay. So if you have something like this going on, it's important to recognize it in yourself. Recognize yourself and say, this isn't something that I can just handle and just go and do because I'm too easily triggered. That's okay to acknowledge that in yourself. It's okay to admit how difficult this can be. All right. And then get some help. All right. This is something that we work on every week in my divorce intelligence group. That's where I work with people just like you, going through a divorce. Maybe they're already divorced and they're co-parenting, but things like this come up. They come up all the time. So this is what we do. We work on it. We go in, we make sure the mindset is right. We clear the energy. We put in something good to make whatever the event or the outcome, the result of whatever's coming up, to set it in the right tone, I guess, so to speak. That's what we do. We set the energy for it, okay? And I help people with different exercises so that then when they do have to go in and talk to a teacher or a coach, they can be less triggered. They can do it with a sense of calm. They can do it with ease, and they can do it in a productive manner, right? That's good for them and good for their kids. So if you find yourself being one of these people that you think you just can't possibly do it, then consider that. Consider getting some help. Consider joining Divorce Intelligence, or at least working with another, perhaps parenting coordinator, to help you through that. Okay. But don't just go in it and be triggered and, do all the things basically that I'm saying don't do, because these are the things that happen so often. Like I said, these things are probably responsible for about maybe 60-70% of all litigation, maybe more. I mean, they're at the heart of so many issues. So I know it isn't that easy to do. When you talk with the teachers, okay, or the coaches, see if you can lay out some mutual expectations for how your ongoing communications are going to happen, all right? A lot of people go into this thinking that they've got to have separate parent-teacher conferences, separate coaches meetings, that kind of stuff. Well, I mean, I get where you're coming from, and I see your point of view in wanting that. Again, it's because you feel like you're too triggered and you're trying to minimize the possibility of damage by just separating yourselves, right? Which is one way of doing it, I suppose. But the reality is you can't expect that. You just can't expect that from the teachers and the coaches. They're busy. They have a lot of kids to manage, a lot of kids to help, okay? And the other thing, which is what I've been kind of alluding to here all along, is they don't particularly want to do things separately, because if they do, it opens them up to being put in the middle. It opens them up to being a pawn in your fight. This is the place where their words are manipulated, where they're misquoted, where all of a sudden they're being used or turned into like your quasi-confidant and hauled into court, right? I mean, that's not where your teachers and coaches want to be. It's not where they're going to be most effective. They just want to be there to help your little kiddo, and that's it. Okay, now that being said, some people will allow that opportunity, especially if there's a safety issue. I know a lot of teachers that will accommodate if there's a safety issue, but I mean, just keep it in mind. Maybe don't. It's possible maybe you're taking advantage of the teacher's good graces, I suppose. So just keep it in mind. It's not their preference. This came through very strong in the survey, and it's come through in all of my conversations with really every teacher that I've ever talked to. So think about that. And also think about, this is another story. I'm going to back up a minute here. Not long ago, I was involved in a case, right, where the mom and the dad, they started off their journey of divorce on such great footing. You almost couldn't even tell in talking to the kids that they were getting a divorce, because the kids who were little at the time, life was still good. Life was great. Mom and dad were fine. They were sharing custody. Great. Fast forward, something happened, right? Fast forward, that's when the power struggles began. And a lot of the power struggles for this family centered around education, educational needs, and activities. All right. Long story short, they had very, very, very different parenting styles. Okay. And that, of course, just exacerbated these power struggles. And each of them would try to get the teachers involved, the coaches involved, the doctors involved, the counselors involved. And, I'd say that each of them probably just exhausted a ton of money. Let's just say that. Maybe at least $100,000 in litigation fees over the years. And finally just concluded a trial that was several days long over the course of months. And one of the things that came through, because of course, when you go to trial, you bring in your witnesses. Teachers are brought in. Teachers were brought in this case. Counselors were brought in this case. And the theme in listening to the teachers, the counselors, the doctors was that mom and dad have different parenting styles, and these kids could benefit if they would just get on the same page, even though they clearly can't communicate and have no ability to co-parent because they don't communicate. Well, I'm going to tell you that the judge decided, after he heard everything, that both of these parents were equally good and equally flawed, we'll say, right? Neither one of them was overshadowing the other in the department of parenting skills. They were both doing the best they could with what they had, and the kids were really okay. They're doing fine too. But what won the day and made the decision, in part anyways in this case, we'll say, something that was important, all right, is the fact that every teacher, every counselor, every doctor pretty much said the same thing. And instead of the parents hearing that message, and doing something about it, setting aside their swords and saying, let's go to Tim Hortons and work this out, or let's do it with a counselor and work this out. We really got to get on the same page. Instead of them doing anything at all, even taking one step forward in that direction, they just continued to believe that they were right and they should have sole custody. They can't communicate. This should be done. Let's continue the litigation. And the fact that they continued to litigate instead of taking any other steps led the judge to make a decision where neither one of them won and neither one of them lost because nothing changed. All that money spent and nothing changed. Now, I'm telling you this here when we're talking about teachers because each of them thought that they had the teacher in their pocket, right? Each of them thought that the teacher was going to come in and testify in support of them because really each of them really was and is a good parent, supporting of their children, helping them with their homework, taking them to their activities. Each of them were great in that way. But it's not what happened. That's not what happened when the teacher came in. So the other thing is when you're talking to teachers, bear in mind that you're probably hearing what you think you want to hear, and you might be missing the real message. Okay, so think about that also when you're talking about your communications with the teachers. Don't just think that they're right on your side and they're jumping in the ring with you and they're going to go to court with you because they are not there for you. And it's likely that no matter how much you tried to persuade them to join your team, so to speak, team mom against team dad or team dad against team mom, I'm going to tell you, 99% of every teacher I've ever talked to has never fallen victim to that or never taken the bait, okay? They have always stood on the side of the child. And in almost every case, I've talked to parents who believed it was otherwise. So think about that, all right? And when you're talking with these teachers, and try to keep your communication happening in a transparent way with the other party. So you're going to alleviate some of these risks and some of these things from happening, or at least not put the teacher in a position of feeling that there's that possibility of being manipulated and misquoted. And let's see, real quick, and we're going to take a break. If you do happen to see the teacher at an open house or something else, where there's other people there, ice cream social, and maybe something is brought up. Just every teacher would ask, take a minute, look around, see who's around you. Again, act like an adult, right? Set a good example. Okay, this isn't your opportunity to dive into details, badmouth your ex, bigger fight, any of that. Okay, so just be aware that you are always setting an example. Even if your kid's not around, there's other people around. And if you are acting poorly, it's really going to reflect on you, most likely, more than it would ever reflect on the parent you're talking about. So, okay. Let's take a break. I've been talking a lot, and when we come back, we're just going to continue our conversation. So stick with me. Hey there, it's Gina. If you like what you hear, did you know that you can get even deeper and closer to your heart's wisdom and receive personal one-on-one guidance by working with me virtually? If you're sick of drowning in frustration and overwhelm and ready to flow through your divorce and co-parenting challenges, then go to my website and book a call with me. That's deprima.com, DEPRIMA law.com. Or you can find me on Facebook at Deprima Law. Talk to you soon. Some of you have questions about your partnership, marriage, or co-parenting situation. I'm here for you. Give me a call in today's live episode by dialing the U.S. number 1-760-456-7277. That's 1-760-456-7277. Talk to you soon. Okay, here we are, talking about your kids. We're talking about their teachers and, really what they, I think, would hope and wish for you to know. And we're talking about coaches because they're with our kids. And all of these people play such an important role in our children's lives, right? It takes a village. So let's continue. Bad mouthing is a big, big, big problem. And I want you to know and understand that bad mouthing isn't something that's always such an obvious thing. And I really was asking people in the survey to try to give some specific examples of things they heard, because I was hoping that if I was able to bring you some specific examples or language that, maybe you'd identify with it a little easier. Because I know a lot of times, sometimes we look at ourselves in the best light possible. Oh, I would never talk bad about so-and-so. But the reality is maybe you have, just to put it bluntly, not realizing it. Again, because when you're going through this, it's so easy to be driven by your emotions and to really almost be driven subconsciously by your emotions. It just changes your body in every way, shape, or form. And it's easy to get triggered and do things and say things that you wouldn't otherwise do or say, or maybe even be proud of. So bad mouthing and that subtle manipulation, it can be just that, very subtle. Things like this. These are the statements I got, and some that I've, obviously just heard on my own. Parents come in and they'll say things, for example, like at open house or other times in the year, don't write that on there because he or she's going to go and tell their lawyer, right? Or, no, I need my own copy because the mother's not going to share. His mother keeps all the paper. His mother loses everything. It's his mother does this or his father does that. Since when did mama or dada or mommy or dad or mom or dad turn into mother, father with that tone? I think you know what I'm trying to get at here, because that label and that tone changes, doesn't it, when you're going through divorce and how you refer to the parent, right? Here's another good one. Oh, he was at Dad's house, so of course it wasn't done. You know what? Dad loses everything. So you know what? If you just need anything, if you need anything at all, just call me, just email me. I'll help you, right? Because he's irresponsible. I mean, just forget it. Don't even waste your time. Okay, maybe I exaggerated some of that, but I hope you get the idea on that one. Here's another one. Oh, you know, this could be in response to a call if the child was struggling. Oh, well, have you heard from his mother? Well, what did she say about it? What did she do about it? Right? Oh, don't worry about the father's not going to make him do his homework. That's another one. Psst, of course he didn't do his homework. He was at his father's house last night, right? Oh, his mother doesn't even care about him. She never comes to the practices, right? Don't expect to see her around. Okay? Oh, why isn't so-and-so at the meeting? Oh, he doesn't care. He doesn't care about him. You know, he's too busy with his girlfriend. Okay, these are the kinds of comments that people say. And this is what I'm talking about. This is what not to do, right? Here's another one. This is the overgiver, the mom turned super mom or the dad turned super dad, where all of a sudden they're going to be the one to supply everything that their child could ever possibly need, you know, for the classroom, right? They're like the room mom on steroids, right? Like you're going to bring in a year supply of Kleenex, you know, all of a year's supply of snacks. You're going to go to every single field trip. You're going to do everything. It's the overgiver, like I'm so super. And sometimes it just comes out of nowhere, only when you're starting the divorce. Trust me, the teachers see through that, okay? And not to mention, if you have a child who's even aware just a little bit, they probably don't like it. Again, they're going to stand out, you know? How many other kids have a mother or father who are bringing in all the Kleenex for the entire year, or all the snacks for the whole year, or, you know, whatever the case may be, going to every single thing there all the time? The kids don't like it. They want to be like everyone else, okay? So, here's one. I've actually heard this a lot too with the child. The morning after being at Dad's house. Oh, she was at her father's house. He has no idea how to do her hair, right? That's another one. These are the kind of comments that just are not productive. They're not helpful. They're not going to help your teacher better support your child, not going to help your coach better guide your child, right? And here's two more I think I got here. In response to like, oh, there was some issue that was brought up. Oh, she was at her father's house, you know, or, oh, well, her mother was just too busy. Her mother was just too busy doing blah, 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 blah to make sure that it was done. And it's her mom's fault. And here's a real good one. And I've seen this happen myself, because as you know, if you've been listening, you know, I've got two children who are also very much involved with sports. But how about when you screw up the schedule, right? The pickup or the drop off in the schedule. And maybe you're late to pick up your child, or maybe they end a little bit early and it just feels like you're late. Cause I know that's happened too, at least for me. All of a sudden the coach is stuck and he's got to do what he's got to do, or she's got to do what she's got to do. You have to call a parent. So you call the parent, you know, so-and-so, we ended early. You know, we're here, we're waiting for you. And what does the parent do in response? An earful. What are you talking about? Oh my God, that no good, blah, blah, blah. He should have been there, blah, 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 da, 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 da. It's completely unnecessary, right? The coach doesn't need to hear it. Your child certainly doesn't need to hear it, okay? And the teacher absolutely doesn't need to hear it. All you need to do is say, oh my goodness, I'm so sorry. I'll be right there. That's it. Don't create more drama. Don't create more drama for these kiddos, okay? Don't let them feel like everybody in the world knows everything about all their business. Just the basics. That's it, all right? You need to also talk about with the teachers or coaches how you can expect to get information from them, okay? A lot of teachers, coaches, etc., I don't think they like to send out duplicate copies. They don't want the responsibility, and quite frankly, it's not their responsibility, is it? So don't expect it. And this causes a lot of litigation. Don't expect the other parent to be responsible to give it to you. Why should they? You know, in most cases, even if you've got a situation where you don't have custody and the other parent has sole custody, odds are you still have a right to access all of the records and all of the providers and all of the information about your child. If your parental rights weren't terminated, then you have that right. So it's not the other parent's responsibility to keep you in the loop. It's your responsibility to put yourself in the loop. Okay? And stay on top of things. And that's it right there. All right? So one thing you can do is if you have a pretty good school, you can notify the administration that you've got 2 addresses and ask them that anything be sent home to two places. Most schools, I think these days, have an online portal, and a lot of the activities have something online too. So just get your own login information. And, I realize that some of these, for the younger kiddos, that they're still using a home folder and an agenda book, and sometimes notices just go in the home folder. And I know that can create a big, to-do and a lot of drama, but it really doesn't have to. It really, really does not have to create the drama, because the odds are, right, if some kind of a flyer went home in the home folder, that's not the only place that information was. It was probably still on the school's website, still on some kind of newsletter that's probably online, or still in that portal. So number one, it's your job to keep yourself in the loop, to keep yourself engaged and keep yourself, looking at all these different avenues for information. It's not the other parent's job. But number two, okay, and this is not difficult to do. If the child is coming home to you and, the child has the agenda book and there's some documents in the home folder, and, it would be a good idea for the other parent to know about it, how hard is it to just snap a picture of the document and send the text to the other parent? If you can't talk to the parent, I'm sure there's somebody that you can talk to that can facilitate the information, right? Or just take the picture for yourself. Now you've got the information, and keep the document in the home folder, so wherever the child goes, that other parent has the opportunity to see it. The point is you're not hurting the other parent by taking this information and not sharing this information. At the end of the day, you're hurting your child and your child's right to have a relationship with the other parent. Okay? So, I get it. I've heard all the objections. Why should I do that? He doesn't do that. I hear that all the time. Well, whatever happened to just rising above that and just being the bigger person, right? I think that's just, really think about it. And how difficult is it just to snap that picture anyways? It's not difficult. So you can provide the information even if it's an inconvenience, even if you feel like you shouldn't have to. You can do that. Why? Because you care more about your kid than you do about the fight or the drama or being right. And that should be why you do it. And if you can't, if you're just not there, then take the picture and keep it for your own records and keep the information in the folder. It's fine. I want to tell you, I had the pleasure of working with somebody once who the other parent wasn't involved really in the child's life at all. They weren't completely absent, but largely absent, okay? But I'm not going to say it didn't matter. It did matter. It hurt this mother a lot. It hurt her deeply to know that, her son wasn't having a relationship with his dad that she had always envisioned that he'd have, right? That hurts. But she also knew that it wasn't her fault. She was willing and able to relay information, receive information, communicate. She wanted the dad in the son's life, okay? And this is what happens. And to her credit, periodically, she would do just that. She would send pictures of the child, updates on how the child was doing at all of his activities, if he had a band concert coming up, she let him know. She clued him in as much as possible, even though, was it her responsibility to do that? Absolutely not. Could dad have found the information out himself? Absolutely could have. Should he have? Probably, right? But she rose above the inconvenience. She rose above her ego, and she shared the information because it was the right thing to do. And so that then, in those moments when dad was having some relationship with his son, there was at least the hope or the possibility of a common ground there being created. So he could at least know, oh, wow, my son did this in baseball. He could ask about it, right? So that's the idea here. We tell our kids this all the time when they're in a fight with somebody, be the bigger person. Well, I guess that's what I'm saying here to all of you. Sometimes you just got to be the bigger person. Sometimes you just got to bite the bullet and do it, regardless of the inconvenience that it might cause you, and regardless of whether or not you feel like you should, right? Wow, we're running out of time, and I have so much to say here about sports and events. We may not get to all of it today, so if we don't, I'm going to adjust the schedule, and we'll definitely talk about it next time. But when you are together at these things, obviously, like I had already said, act like a grown-up, okay? Act like a grown-up. And here's something that happens a lot, and I think we'll probably just end on this note, all right? A lot of times you have a parenting schedule, right? And, a lot of people are alternating the weekends. And so, it might be your Saturday, according to the parenting schedule. But Johnny's got a soccer meet all day, right? And he plays soccer with his dad, or maybe his dad's the coach, right? So now you're angry because it's quote unquote your day, right? Now you might go, you might be the parent that goes. And in this example, let's look at it from that perspective. You're the parent that goes. Well, you know what? If you go as that. Go as the supportive parent who's there to watch your child have fun, watch your child play with his friends, watch and learn about competition. Go there and do that. Don't go there and make a scene. Don't go there with this vibe all about you and a big huff and a puff. And number one, please, 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 please do not do these stupid little things like stomping on over to your kid if he's talking to his other parent, or maybe it's grandma there on the sidelines, or grandpa, or, somebody on his side of the family or her side of the family, right? Don't go stomping over there and pulling your kid away. Don't stand there on the sidelines with this ugly little glare, this nasty, disapproving look, right? Don't engage in that kind of angry, subtle, passive-aggressive type behavior that just puts your kid in the middle, makes them feel super uncomfortable, absolutely affects their performance on the field, right? So now they're doubting themselves, shaming themselves. It just turns into an awful situation for everybody. And keep in mind also, if you're going and you're bringing, the little brother or little sister, what's the big deal? What's the big deal if they go to the snack stand with dad, even though it's not quote unquote his day? What's going to come of that, right? What's the big deal if they want to go over there and hang out with grandma? These are things that I've seen. These are things that coaches see all the time, drives them nuts because it's not what they're there for. They don't need to babysit you, right? And your kid should be on that field or be on the ice or be on that stage wherever they are, and they should be beaming with happiness. And they should be able to look out across that field or across the audience and be able to see both of the parents there feeling good, being supportive, smiling. And if you're not feeling that way, fake it. You're an adult. I hate to be so blunt, but come on. Sometimes that's what being an adult is. Okay, I could go on forever about this. So we're going to do a part 2 next week, more about the sports scheduling issues, because boy, is that a huge issue. So join me then. Thank you for listening. I hope that it was helpful, and hit me up on Facebook and join my mailing list. Thank you so much. Have a great week. Thank you so much for joining me today. Come back next week and be sure to visit my website at dpremalaw.com to book a call, or let's connect on Facebook at dpremalaw, where you can join my group for more support. Please remember that the information shared is for general and entertainment purposes only, and that by calling in or messaging me, we are not creating an attorney-client relationship, and my advice is not intended to be legal advice. For specific legal advice, please contact a lawyer in your jurisdiction.
show was brought to you by inflowradio.com, the best curated talk radio network for personal development, wellness, spirituality, and conscious business.